right, people, welcome back to the I'm Not That Polished podcast. My name is John, and I'm the person who's not polished, and I'm talking you through my unpolishedness. So, um, first, I want to give a shout out and thank you to all the folks who have chimed in and listened and given me some positive words and feedback. I appreciate it. Gave me the little premium gas that I need to continue going forward. Thank you for that. But I want to do something kind of interesting, and so follow with me. I would love to have these episodes be almost chronological in the sense of so there'll be a thread line through, and but at the same time, kind of having some space where I can take or extrapolate something that I say in episode one or episode two or episode five, and have its own tangent conversation on. So bear with me as that is the intention, but obviously things could actually change because a good portion of this also is that I want to use this almost as a stream of consciousness type of vibe. I have some talking points, but at the same time, you're getting thoughts because I'm not that polished at times. But before I get too far into it, just want to give two shout outs. First shout out is to Ariel Sanders. Ariel Sanders is a Shaw Bear, Shaw University. Shout out. You've probably seen me in a various array of colored beanies, these bad boys here. She's made a good portion of them. Right now, you can't see this obviously because it's monochrome, but this is my soft baby pink one. And I'm always, these are the go-tos. It's funny, even when we're in this pandemic and we have to wear a mask, I still find myself being very recognizable because of the hat. And so it's kind of funny and a little scary at the same time. So maybe I need to kind of figure out, give me a look from time to time. Second shout out is to Joe Lawton. Joe Lawton is a native Detroiter. He is the one who actually made the I'm Not That Polished sweatshirt. So in the event when these bad boys start to be in high demand and you want one, I will be gauging and putting a poll out, and we will go ahead and be ready to take those pre-orders. But don't worry, this is really premium sweatshirt, good material, feels good, all that jazz. It's breathable, so it's warm. It's warm enough to use in cold weather, but still breathable to wear right now because we're getting a nice fake spring right now in North Carolina. So it was like 69 degrees today, or might have got up to 70, 71. I don't know. But yeah, either way, shout out to those two entrepreneurs. I'll make sure to tag them as I post them because again, I'm all about being FUBU with it. This is something I also want to do. I want to be able to highlight at least whoever, if there's some article of clothing that I'm wearing or some type of apparel, something that I'm using just to kind of give it, the head tip, the head nod. It's free of charge. I've already purchased it. I just want to give you your flowers and let people know that there's options out here for you in that regard. So there's that. So where I wanted to go with today, I know this is, like I said before, this is a chronological journey that I kind of want to go through. But before I go too far into it, we got to ask the question. So I want to call this the hero's journey, but more so in the sense of like, but who am I? And I think we have to kind of take that step back to understand, at the core, obviously we all are impacted by the various things that happened earlier in our years, the formative years that kind of shape and how we, live our life, see our life, and see the world. So for me, I'm born of two parents. Surprise, no immaculate conceptions here. But by the time I'm two, I believe that the actual relationship of them being together had ended. So that put my father back in Detroit. My mother, who's also from Detroit, was in Kansas City. And so I lived in Kansas City my first 5 years and then moved to Detroit. So in between that time, I had my father and I were good in the sense of like I don't have any bad memory of my father per se. It's just that the consistency in which that he was in my life was a bit sparse, and that's just due to my father's own demons, which I guess the ultimate those things catch up with you. You live hard. You live hard. You live a certain way. Unfortunately, your body can only sustain itself for so long. So in '96, he passes away of lung cancer. And so the interesting thing about that is that at that time, '96, I'm 12. I'm like, oh my guy, this is when I need you the most. Like I'm starting to like the little ladies, it's middle school. How do I talk to them? This type of thing. How do I tie a tie? Just the nuanced things that you need from a man. I didn't get that from my biological father. I got it from my godfather and godmother. And then, my mother was smart enough to put me around a whole bunch of people. So I'm definitely a true definition of a village child. So everybody can take credit. Should I end up really doing something impactful in the world and I become someone that's have some notoriety, those people can always come back and say, yeah, I knew he was always going to be good because I had a hand in that. So, but no, I'm always and forever will always be indebted to those folks who had that impact. But yeah, I look at it in the sense of, our life always happens to us in various stages. And so I thought the hero's journey would be appropriate because it makes me think recently a book that I participate in a book club, and one of the books was Untethered Soul. And early in the book, like chapter 2, it just asks the reader, like, who are you? And so, I start thinking, well, again, the same thing I kind of gave you all in the first one. I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm a friend, I'm a cousin, I'm this, and all those things that I claim to say that I am. No, I'm not. I'm none of that. I'm what I am. I again, this is going to get super esoteric, but these are just one of the multiple things. Oh, shout out Lil Langston over here. He gave me the respect. Look at Langston growing up. Not going to interrupt. I'll bring him on one day. But as I was saying, all of those things make these things that I'm experiencing, but it's not me in that manner. And it's kind of like, I'm like, oh yeah, wow. Like I am not all of these things, because these things that, we look at, we use words to define things, but really that's only based on what we give credence to, so to speak. It's like a wall's not a wall unless we say it's a wall. So it's like, and again, I'm going to give you guys a fair warning. This is one of the multiple layers that I think that I do carry. So, but this is also one of the layers that I show the most often. So the esoteric, the kind of introspective side that I throw out there often. Don't worry, I'll give you some of the shits later. I promise. But I got to get through this because this is, I guess, been most in my purview right now, especially taking deep dives into Alan Watts and various books. It's just made me look at it from the perspective of, what is the meaning of certain things. You read a couple of different books, the Hermetica, the Kabbalion, Meta Nature. I got a ton of a plethora of these things, and they all have this congruent understanding aspect that we are not really this that we're doing on our everyday. We've come to a social agreement to understand that these things are in the society as it is, but we're not, what we do or what we participate in. Because at the end of the day, my job can decide to go in another direction and go straight AI. And then now what happens to me? They thank me for my service and they send me on my way. So, you can't define yourself as the things that you do in that manner. So I think it's it's a super high level esoteric perspective, but I think that helps ground things when for me personally, when I start to take things way too seriously, because I can get in that mode, as I mentioned before in the other pod, the first pod. I'm a Virgo, and I'm a Virgo to all of the degrees and all of the, not all, but all of the stereotypes that you give a Virgo, that's highly analytical in your head, all that. I'm that. And so having this perspective to understand that I can take this, it gives me the ability to take that 50,000 foot level and kind of see things from that view. So I don't get too caught up in the weeds. It's helpful because again, it can get rough at times. You're just looking at things in that manner. So, but at the same time, it also makes me, I don't know, it makes me feel like, I don't want to say not feeling like I'm not living because I feel like I am. I'm living because I'm present in every moment. But then it makes me feel as if though maybe I'm missing something in some capacities because I don't have. There's only a few things that I really have like die hard passions for. I am passionate about being in my marriage, even though my marriage is slightly, not even slightly, it's very unconventional. Um, More on that. We'll get down there. I got to hook you guys in for some capacity so you guys can keep coming back to find out more. Um, but and being a father, and I think that being a father is the more is not the most important thing to me, but it's up there because those two things are up there, but it's because of those weren't the things that I naturally had. So again, I saw very healthy relationships with my grandparents on my father's side, my godparents. So that was the thing that I want. I want that. I want that dynamic, and so yeah, I don't necessarily care to be uh like ultra successful as it pertains to like making an exorbitant amount of money. I mean, I would love to pass down generational wealth, yes, but then the idea of me having to work to the bone to do it, fuck no. I just don't. I don't ascribe to that. I never ascribed to hustle culture. I never ascribed to the whole, sleep is the cousin of death because, what if this, you read those stories where you see that people are, you see that, you read those stories about people who are on their deathbed and they ask them, hey, what did you wish that you would have done? And like, I wish I would have lived more. And so like for me, yes, I want to live. And I understand that we live in a society that you need money because that is the tool to use to live. But at the same time, are we living based on our own definitions, or are we living based on the definitions that society says or the standard by which the society gives us to live? And that's where I've started to realize and pivot. So it's I'm writing my own hero's journey. I'm rewriting it based on the journey that I thought that I was going to ascribe to go to. So my hero's journey is actually somewhat of a pivot from the hero's journey that I thought was predestined for me based on what I saw. Like my grandfather and godfather are uberly educated. I got into higher education, worked in higher education, and it was like, nah, I'm good. Especially being in the program that I worked in, it was it's the retention program had some political undertones to it, and it's at that time that program was bigger. The problems are far larger than what any institution can solve. It's a societal issue. So for me, it was like, oh, this is an easy chopping block one way on one way, but then it's an easy prop tool on the other ways. But so it's like this don't really feel like y'all doing anything in that capacity. And I start mailing that shit in. I just didn't care anymore. I cared about the students, but I didn't care to be in that joint. I didn't. And so uh, I move off and I end up going into marketing, which I'm currently doing now. And it's still the same thing because you start looking at now that, we are being um, manipulated by our own, psychological or physiological uh, not inadequacies, but we are our physiological aspects of us as humans are being used against each other, used against us to make sure that we're on these said apps and these things. Obviously, we've seen the various documentaries on the social dilemma or anything like that, but I see it even a little bit deeper because I'm a marketer, so I understand what they're saying on these things. And so but it's not inherently bad, nothing is inherently bad or inherently good. It's just, can there be a better way of doing these things? And so like I look at that in the same vein. Well, you know, I understand the rules of society and how to, how I have to navigate them, but I don't necessarily have to adhere to all of them because I can choose to participate one way or other. So to again to kind of piggyback and pivot that back to the whole notion, yeah, I can. Do I want to leave generational wealth? Yes, absolutely. Do I want to make as much money as I can? Absolutely. But I'm not going to do it um, at the expense of missing a soccer game or a basketball game or going outside and playing catch. I remember one of the most impactful things that I ever remember that my dad and I did was actually going and we went to Roberto Clemente Recreation Center. That's southwest Detroit. So any of my friends who have known me, a good portion of my life, they'll understand. They'll know exactly what it is, Mexitown. Um, One of the most impactful things we ever did was we played 21, and I was like maybe like 10, 11, but I remember it to this day. I remember the smell of I remember the smell of the gym. I remember the smell of the rubber, because we played with a rubber ball. Like, well, why did the gym didn't have a regular? But man, that never. Yeah, I remember all that, and it's those moments that you don't get those back. So I don't ever want to be in a position where um I'm trading time for money to give Langston something better than what I had, but I feel like I can give him that much more if I'm present. And so that's where I think my pushback from that hustle culture comes from. Not, and that's just my personal thing. Not necessarily saying it in the sense of like, everybody who does hustle culture is trash. Absolutely not. I admire those folks who actually are able to do it. I commend them. But it's just, you have to understand everything isn't for you, and you got to live with that and be cool with it. So, um, yeah, I think that it's important for us to kind of take that step and to take a pause and actually understand when we look at our own hero's journey, whose journeys is it really? Is it the journey of yourself, or is it a journey that you're following based on what you're supposed to do? So there's the difference between freelance, going to a tattoo artist and they freehand draw the art on you, opposed to them getting the stencil. Both of them are effective, but I think the person who can freehand draw has a little bit more care to the craftsmanship, in my opinion. Not saying that the person who can't stencil does not care about their craftsmanship, but that person who can just look at it from this and say, I'm not going to follow this guide. I can look at it and then I'm going to draw it on you and actually add something. Let me add this to this petal here. Obviously, I'm thinking about a tattoo that has some type of botany, a flower or whatever. But that type of skill, there's something to that, and it's the same for those who decide to beat to their own drum. It's interesting, especially I'm from my immediate family, I'm the only one who went to, so I'm first generation college student. So for me, it's you have there's certain expectations you have to succeed, and you're pressured to not fail, and your wiggle room to not fail is slight. And so it's like, and you feel the pressure to live up to these expectations, but it's sometimes, you made it like, nah, I really don't want to do all this. And so like I never forget my mother's face when I was like, nah, I'm not pursuing basketball anymore. For those who didn't know, I played at Shaw. We were terrible, but I did have a few opportunities to um, play overseas. I went to a NBL camp in Las Vegas in 2011 and performed really well. I did a full facilitating interview, did some interviews, had made some great contacts with some coaches and things like that. But I think the business of basketball just beat my ass. I didn't want it anymore. It wasn't the same game that I got that love for. And what happens, especially for me, and I started making a little bit of money, just a little bit of money, and had a little bit of love life. But in terms of having a girlfriend, I just decided, I was like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna sit this one out. I'm good. And like, but my mom was just like, no, I still, but my mom, again, bless her heart, she's hyper, not hyper in a bad way, but she's a, strong faith. And so she, she still decreed and prayed to God that I was gonna make the NBA, but I didn't want it anymore. I think basketball was a fantastic vehicle for me. But at a certain point, you start to realize the business of things. You're like, no, I'm good. So that was me taking that time to edit this hero's journey that my mom had based on the expectation. Now, again, my mother sacrificed a lot to make sure I was able to, make practices, AAU games and stuff like that. So I understand her perspective, but it's, I got my degree out of it. So it's not like nothing was, I didn't get anything from it. So, she didn't pay a dime for school. And again, I'm a 5'9" kid from Detroit. There are a dime a dozen 5'9" guards in the country that can play basketball. So clearly, I had something that was able to allow me to get my degree in that regard. And I at one point I did have that conversation. I said, Mom, we got what we got out of it. We squoze everything out of basketball and basketball because I didn't never want to be that person who hung on to that dream too long and did not learn other skills that would allow me to function in society. Because again, like I said before, there is a societal game that we have to play to navigate first, and then we have to decide whether or not we want to play to all the rules or not. And so I appreciate that time that I took to say, nah, I'm good. So yeah, I just think that the hero's journey, and again, I think again I've been really big on the hero's journey just because of my readings. I've been again exposed to Alan Watts. Alan Watts is OG. Like I didn't realize he was talking this Zen and Buddhism in the 50s. Um, but it was an interesting perspective finding out that Alan Watts had some influence on Joseph Campbell. And if anybody who knows me knows how I was talking about Joseph Campbell and the power of the myth from all 2019 and 2020, like I would say, hey, you want to watch something on Netflix, watch that. And so because it was a fantastic docu series on the understanding mythology and the importance of it. Joseph Campbell was I want to say white dude who was raised Catholic, and then I believe he ends up pivoting and understanding and going deep into Eastern philosophies, and then even some indigenous cultures in North America. Like he had a vast knowledge of that, and even take it to some of um, the philosophies and teachings in continental Africa as well, because he talked about how the goddess was systematically replaced. And he even talks about like how the goddess, or the feminine, so to speak, is the actual form bringer. That's a whole nother conversation that it's hella remarkable when you think about it in today's terms. But yeah, just like, so again, like the hero's journey is always been something that I'm always consciously like thinking about, because I know it's like it plays itself in uh it plays itself in the background, like at what stage am I in certain hero's journey. So like even in this point right now, I'm there's a hero's journey to everything that we do right now. I'm still in my early awareness stage of what type of podcaster I want to be, and like how vulnerable do I want to get. And so I think that with time I'll be able to figure that out, but I already have like an idea of like those set things. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of give you a quick follow up. Thank you for those who did take the time to listen. I Spotify, YouTube, and IGTV is going to be the primary places where I place this. So don't feel pressured to follow me on all of them. But if you do, thank you. But if you like anything that you heard, shoot me some love. give me a like, a thumbs up, and comment. I'm big on the conversation. So if there's something that, you know, you want to further expound upon, you know, on the one-on-one, or if it's something that you want me to kind of like retouch on in terms of like a continuation, I can do that. Again, I think that one thing about, you know, our current state being, however our situation is in terms of the social distancing and things of that manner, connectivity is always going to be important. And like I think I realized that over the past couple of days, where um, just sitting there thinking about a couple of, you know, exchanges I had with some followers, and it's like you don't know anyone's story until they really give it to you. And so like I found, you know, out some remarkable things about certain people, and I'm just like, damn, like we all definitely are, you know, we're all on our own journeys, and it's like it's super dope to, you know, experience that with people. So yeah, that's oh, here comes Langston. So dinner's ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, on that note, dinner's ready. I'm going to go ahead and cut out. Y'all have a good one. Um, Stay safe. Enjoy this weather while we can. If all of my folks who are in North Carolina, because you know we're going to get some rain soon. To my Texas folks, hope y'all good. To everybody else, y'all stay classy. Y'all take care.